and they changed.
And who do you see on the horizon for 2028 in the Democratic primary?
Right now?
Yeah.
Bernie and AOC.
No.
They got the biggest crowds.
That doesn't matter.
It won't sustain itself, but right now they have no leader. Okay? But this is the thing the Republican Party has to understand too. Both parties lost in the last election. Trump won, okay? And I don't know if that's going to transfer. We should have won 4 more seats in the Senate. If you looked at the last 70 races for the Senate, 69 fall exactly the way.
I think it's Moore versus Youngkin. That's where I see it.
Youngkin would be excellent.
Youngkin
it's going to go back to governor.
adjacent, and then Vance and Jr. will fight it out for that crowd.
But you're AOC and Bernie, and who's at the top of the ticket?
They're going to lead right now.
Who's at the top of that ticket, Kevin? Because if it's not Bernie, he's going to be vice president and then wait his turn?
No, it would be. Bernie's been running each time. I'm just saying who's in the lead right now. I don't think that's how it ends up.
But big crowds don't necessarily mean who's the right candidate. You know, when I started
but it drives where the ideas are going to go. It's going to drive the money for a while.
A few days ago, I shared the first part of Bill Maher's strong criticism of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez over comments he viewed as unpatriotic. What many didn't know is that there's a second part, and it's even more direct. That follow-up is now here, and it's worth your attention. Before we jump into it, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay updated with more content that covers today's most talked about moments.
And they changed.
And who do you see on the horizon for 2028 in the Democratic primary?
Right now?
Yeah.
Bernie and AOC.
No.
They got the biggest crowds.
That doesn't matter.
It won't sustain itself, but right now they have no leader. Okay? But this is the thing the Republican Party has to understand too. Both parties lost in the last election. Trump won, okay? And I don't know if that's going to transfer. We should have won 4 more seats in the Senate. If you looked at the last 70 races for the Senate, 69 fall exactly the way.
I think it's Moore versus Youngkin. That's where I see it.
Youngkin would be excellent.
Youngkin
it's going to go back to
adjacent, and then Vance and Jr. will fight it out for that crowd.
But you're AOC and Bernie, and who's at the top of the ticket?
They're going to lead right now.
Who's at the top of that ticket, Kevin? Because if it's not Bernie, he's going to be vice president and then wait his turn?
No, it would be. Bernie's been running each time. I'm just saying who's in the lead right now. I don't think that's how it ends up.
But big crowds don't necessarily mean who's the right candidate. You know, when I started...
No, but it drives where the ideas are going to go. It's going to drive the money for a while.
It doesn't make them the winner.
Right from the start, Bill Maher makes it clear he's not on board with the idea of a Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez ticket. In his view, it would be just as unsuccessful as past combinations that didn't connect with voters, like the Harris-Warren effort. Things get more intense when Kevin McCarthy challenges Maher, suggesting that Sanders and AOC could represent the future of the Democratic Party. But Maher doesn't back down. He stands firm, and then delivers a brutally honest take that could spark serious debate within the Democratic National Committee.
You'll have to wait till you'll get 2 years out, and then you'll start seeing these governors that start showing solutions. You also have to know, what is the issue going to be? Are we going to have a foreign policy issue? Are we going to have an economic issue? And who's been the best in leading in that? But right now, for the Democrats, who's going to lead for the next 2 years? The money is going to... AOC outraised everybody in the House.
And it's all small donors.
It's all small donors.
Yeah.
This is exactly where Trump was when no one gave him a chance at 17. He outraised everybody else. So that's where the base is at, right? And so what will happen, it'll move after the next midterm election.
Before we play the Bill Maher clip, let's quickly clear up a common comparison: Trump and AOC. The truth is, Trump didn't win support because of small-dollar donors or ideology. People backed him for his bold America First policies. Comparing him to AOC misses the mark. Trump represented strength and a clear direction. AOC, to many, is seen more as a loud voice than a serious leader. Now, let's hear what Bill Maher has to say about the idea of a Sanders-AOC ticket.
What do you think of the fact that the people who are getting the big crowds right now are AOC and Bernie Sanders? They're going around the country. Thank you, there's that same guy. I call him the always wrong guy. Okay, but I feel like, big crowds, again, the shiny object that the Democrats chase. It's not about the big crowds that come out to you when you're talking in a festival or wherever they are. I think it's because I think Bernie showed up at Coachella. That must have been fun for the fans. It's who shows up on Election Day. And I just don't see that's the ticket. I mean, Cory Booker, I know you've worked with him. I like Cory a lot from my home state of New Jersey. Made a speech for 25 hours. Again, just whacking each other off. This is just not what's going to get the job done.
Bill Maher delivers his thoughts in a sharp and direct way. No sugarcoating. Yes, AOC and Bernie Sanders are drawing big crowds right now, energized and full of momentum. But Maher reminds us that we've seen this before. Not long ago, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz had similar support, enthusiastic rallies, media praise, and endorsements from major celebrities. With names like Beyoncé and Taylor Swift in their corner, many believed the Democrats were guaranteed to win. But when Election Day arrived, the outcome was very different. Despite the star power and media attention, the Democrats lost ground. And Maher's warning is that it could happen again. His point is clear. Excitement and media buzz don't always translate into actual votes. Confusing energy for substance is a mistake, and according to Maher, it's one the left can't afford to repeat. What he says next could surprise even longtime Democratic supporters.
The Democratic Party should put the people out there who the people want. They should put the politicians out there who the people want, who they're asking for, who are meeting the moment with the same energy that
they're not asking for AOC.
Yes, they are.
The people you party with
No. The people I party with don't like AOC.
Oh, please.
No, they don't at all.
Well, most people don't.
But
she's
AOC,
very far left.
Let me tell you why I'm saying that. Because because people will vote for AOC and Donald Trump on the same ticket. Because they're authentic. No, because they're authentic.
I don't think that, Don.
I think you're wrong about that.
What people like about people like Trump and Fetterman is because it's irrelevant to her life.
But you don't know her life.
I know that being a gorgeous woman who I wouldn't even know was Hispanic in a city that has 1 million Hispanics and does not treat them badly.
But that doesn't mean she doesn't struggle. That doesn't mean that she was set down.
It implies it.
Bill Maher questions AOC's authenticity, saying she often comes across as more performative than genuine. He argues that her personal story feels crafted for social media rather than grounded in real experience, especially in a city like New York, where diversity and progressivism are the norm. According to Maher, that disconnect is why her message may energize activists, but doesn't fully connect with the broader public. And in this next clip, he takes that critique even further.
But that doesn't mean that she was set down in a Hispanic ghetto in the Bronx and had to deal with that growing up, and that she's come from a working class family.
It implies that it implies that in some way she's behind the 8 ball because of that, and it's just not true. And so
I don't know if she's behind the 8 ball, but I don't think she's as privileged as many people who are in Congress right now.
Is that privileged or not? She was a bartender.
Yeah.
You know, so I was a delivery boy.
But I'm saying sometimes, Bill, you don't agree with Donald Trump's policies.
No.
But that's what the people want.
Some of them.
Whether you like her or not, I don't like what she did with Amazon in New York, but I think AOC she's a Democratic icon.
Did Don Lemon really call AOC an icon of the Democratic Party? That alone speaks volumes. For many, it highlights the party's struggle to find grounded, relatable leaders, ones who connect beyond social media and activist circles. But that's not even Bill Maher's main point. In the clip, he challenges AOC's public image and questions her backstory, suggesting it's more political branding than personal struggle. Maher argues she wasn't a product of hardship, but of a movement focused more on appearances than substance. And while her message may fire up online supporters, it doesn't always resonate with everyday Americans.
If you think that's the direction the country the Democratic
I'm not saying the policies that she espouses that's the direction, but I'm saying that you have to give the people who are out front speaking for the party, not the people who are.
If you think
she's evolving,
yeah, she's evolving, and we all are,
and she is moving into She understands the game a little bit more, and if you notice, she is sort of becoming a sort of normal kind of Democrat in many ways. Yes. I think she's evolving.
Okay, great.
She's a very smart tactic. She's very smart.
Let's get behind that.
Bill Maher is doing something few in the mainstream media are willing to, openly challenging the narrative around Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. In a rare moment of agreement, Even Don Lemon acknowledges that AOC isn't widely embraced by the American public, not because of misinformation, but due to her divisive style and far-left positions. Maher takes it further, arguing that while AOC might dominate social media and make headlines, that attention doesn't reflect broad national support. He believes her politics are too extreme to unite a wide Democratic base. His warning is direct. If the Democratic Party continues to elevate AOC as a leading voice, it could lead to deeper internal divisions and possibly cost them future elections, including in 2028. Even Joe Rogan, known for his influence across political lines, seems unconvinced by the idea of AOC leading the ticket. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
One of my favorite interviews was when AOC was talking to that lady and she asked her to expand.
About Israel-Palestine?
Oh my God.
Well, I believe absolutely in Israel's right to exist.
She just collapsed into herself?
It's literally like a fifth grader that didn't study.
Look at that incident more through just as an incident.
And then they ask you about the subject, or you didn't read the book. Well, you know, it's about Billy and his dog.
What people are starting to see, at least in the occupation of Palestine, is...
But the crazy thing about that interview is that, so her first comment comes off with like total authority.
I am a proponent of a two-state solution.
One little follow-up question. Question's like, well, what do you mean by that? And then you just see her get weaker and weaker.
You use the term the occupation of Palestine. What did you mean by that?
But what do you mean about that? It's like, I don't know what I'm talking about, man. Yeah. She literally goes, I'm really not the expert.
Do you think you can expand on that?
I am not the expert at geopolitics on this issue.
She just gave up.
Beyond questions about her consistency, what stands out even more about AOC is the growing perception that she often lacks depth on key issues. Despite her confident presentation, critics argue that her grasp on policy can seem superficial. In a recent interview, she opened with strong statements and familiar talking points, aiming to set the tone. But when pressed with detailed questions, the kind that required facts, data, and specifics, her responses fell flat. Rather than offering clear answers, she shifted focus or gave vague replies. To some, this moment revealed a troubling disconnect between image and substance. As Bill Maher and others have suggested, AOC's political presence may be built more on branding than on deep policy knowledge, and that could pose real challenges for her and her party moving forward.
Another one who's doing that, Gavin Newsom, who I've always been a fan of and thought always could and should be president. And then I recently had a conversation with somebody and I said, gosh, I've always been hoping Gavin would move toward the center and it doesn't seem to be happening. And then, as if I had just manifested it, I see this headline somebody sent me a few days ago. Gavin Newsom name-checked me in how much he wanted to, or how he wanted to move.
Because he's starting a podcast.
Yes.
What he wants to talk to dissenting
everybody.
Voices. Yeah.
So I'm like, thank you, Jesus.
Bill Maher's top choice to lead the Democrats into the future is California Governor Gavin Newsom. Maher believes Newsom brings the experience and political skill that AOC doesn't have. On paper, Newsom might seem like a stronger candidate, but here's where I have to disagree. Newsom's leadership has faced serious criticism. During California's devastating wildfires, many say his response was slow, leaving communities struggling on their own. He's also been at the center of a growing homelessness crisis, with cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles facing major challenges under his watch. And then there's the controversy over the French Laundry dinner, when Newsom was seen dining maskless with lobbyists while many Californians were still under lockdown. So yes, Newsom has political experience, but when it comes to leadership, grounded in integrity, the record isn't so clear.